What's up, everybody? My name is Sid, and I've teamed up with the big homie Reg to bring y'all something new, something we like to call Beyond the Scoreboard. Y'all be sure to review, rate, and subscribe. Let's get to it.
Making these hits, making these flips.
Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, where every 25-point lead is safe. As always, I'm Sid. What's going on, Reg?
Hey, another day, baby, holding it down, man. Glad to see the Saints play. Hey, we didn't come up with a W, but it's all good.
100%, 2-1 in the preseason. They threw up that graphic last night showing that we had never gone undefeated in the preseason. So I was kind of rooting to go ahead and change that, but still some good play that we saw out there, especially from specific players that we'll get to in a minute. Today's show, as always, we start with the Saints. We'll move around to some NFL news, and then we'll jump into making our predictions for the AFC West and the NFC West. The last two episodes, because we had to split it up, we predicted the NFC South and the AFC South. And so now we're jumping into the West of those two conferences. Game 3, preseason, New Orleans Saints, Houston Texans, had the Superdome. Not gonna say it was packed, but it was rocking, especially for a preseason game.
That's all.
Lost to Houston 17-13, but there was a lot of takeaways from this game. What did you get from it?
The only takeaway I got was Jimmy Graham can still play football. I mean, he got, I think it was 2 back shoulder throws in that game. One was down the field and it seemed for like 30, 40 yards. And then the touchdown, that was the icing on the cake for me. Like, that was really no route. It was nothing. I'm about to box him out. I'm 6'8", throw the ball up. Like, I mean,
yeah.
it was very pleasing. And until yesterday, Jimmy Graham was very limited in the New Orleans Saints role. Although it's preseason, it was still limited. And he's 35, 36 now or something like that, 34. So you want to see, if he can still run, can he still move? Do he still can stiff arm somebody? What can he bring to the team? We know we got him for red zone targets and things of that nature, but you just wanted to see some signs, some life, some football was still left in the tank, and he done that yesterday. So like I said, the only takeaway I had was the Jimmy Graham show for me, man. Everything else was what the Saints advertised for all of this preseason.
And crazy enough, that wasn't even anything I really paid any mind to, because once again, he proved in training camp that he could still, present those moments, which is all we need, which is all you're looking for from him, is moments. You don't need him, to be your tight end 1, your tight end 2. Hell, he ain't got to be your tight end 3. But in the red zone, when we need those, those tough yards, can you still go up there and get it? And he showed that he can absolutely do that. For me, man, Lucas Kroll is the first person that comes to mind. I tweeted during the game yesterday. I say, damn, Lucas Kroll is going to be on a 53-man roster that's not in New Orleans. And that tight end, it won't be here, unfortunately.
No. Mm-hmm.
The dude is special. Like that dude is going to be really good. It just won't be in New Orleans, and that's unfortunate. Once he gets waived, somebody else is definitely going to pick him up to where he can't make it to our practice squad. But yeah, the dude is good, and he has a real connection with Jake Haener. In the fourth quarter, especially late, Jake Haener just started forcing the ball to him like crazy, and that honestly led to us losing as well, because Jake Haener just had it on his mind as soon as he hiked the football that he was going to Lucas Kroll. But they do have a connection, and that matters. But it's something that, of course, once again with Jake Haener, he will be on our 53-man roster. I don't think Lucas Kroll makes it there. Brian Brzee, he showed a lot in yesterday's game as well. Once again, we're going to have a big rotation across that defensive line. So every player who, not every player, but a lot of the players that's been playing a lot of this preseason are guys who are going to actually be playing roles for us going into the season. So just seeing those guys being able to go out there and make plays and show how much better they're getting every week, that was real good to see as well.
We spoke about him working on his pass rush moves. He pulled out the spin move. Pulled out the spin move again last night, and it worked. Beat the guard instantly. The guard was holding his arm for the rest of the play. I'm not sure if he was really banged up or not, but I think it was more embarrassment more than anything, man.
Yeah.
He made him look bad. And like you said, the more that this kid gets a chance to play, the better he looks. So I'm sure it's just going to be timing. It takes for him to come along and be a full-time starter.
And the other takeaway for me was a negative one, but it's something me and you have touched on. And anybody who's been paying attention to training camp has touched on. Keep Alontae Taylor away from that slot. Please. Alontae Taylor, I love you. You could be you really had an opportunity to be the number 2 cornerback, but I think Paulson Adebo is going to be that, especially going into the season. But slot wise, no, we can't. Hugo Amadi, Bradley Roby, anybody other than Alontae Taylor. It was evident again last night. And once again, it's not easy to just be like, oh, I'm going to go play slot cornerback. So just the fact that he's working at it and, actually trying to be decent at it is something that's just not right now. We can't put ourselves in that position, even though, when you think about it and people say, oh, put the best 11 players out there. Well, once he gets moved into the slot role, he's no longer one of the best 11 on the field. So,
I'm gonna tell you something else that I think we always overlook a lot. Alontae Taylor is pretty good on the outside boundaries of a corner. So if you got him outside, he's not a liability anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He's within those best 11 players. I feel
100%.
Just made it. But I think we also forget that sometimes in football the best corner follows. And if that's the case, Marshawn Lattimore has played slot in his career. He's followed the best receiver and lined up in the slot. And he's done very good during the course of his career, even as a rookie. Working on some of the big name receivers back in the day when, he was first coming in, the Julio Joneses of the world, the Mike Evans or whatnot. So that's still, a situation where you say, hey, Bradley Roby's hurt, right? It's still a situation where we can put Lattimore on the inside and still have Alontae Taylor on the outside. Very unlikely.
Yeah, I was about to say that's definitely last case scenario type stuff right there. Yeah. So hopefully we not getting to those stages of moving players around like that. Anything else New Orleans Saints wise you wanted to touch on real quick going into cutting down from 90 to 53? I haven't seen any so far. I don't think I've seen any cuts from New Orleans so far.
No.
So they're revving up to that. That's definitely going to be an all-day thing when it comes to the news cycle of players getting cut. But any other thoughts just about the Saints? Going into that. Our
second team offensive line is real bad. And it's no hiding it. Thank God that we do have what's his name?
Throckmorton.
Kelvin Throckmorton, who can play tackle, and Andrew Speed doesn't look like he's going to start. It kind of look like he's still coming along from the injury. I don't think he's 100% right now. So more than
that's definitely part of it as to why James Hurst is looking like he's going to be starting. Yeah.
So thank God we do have a tackle and a guard that we can plug and play. But as a whole, man, that line, that second string line doesn't look good at all.
But even with that, I mean, the injuries throughout training camp and this preseason has prevented us from actually seeing what our real second offensive a mismatch of players. Being out there, you just filling holes around Nick I always mess up his name. Nick Saldivari or Lewis Kidd, or who got beat bad last night. Lewis Kidd, or whoever else is filling Max Garcia, who's playing that backup center role. But once again, injuries haven't even allowed that chemistry to start building. Once again. And I mean, injuries are going to happen across the offensive line, so some of these guys we're going to have to see. But once again, like you mentioned, those top 2 guys coming in off of the bench are guys that we've relied on before, and we'll be able to rely on when that time comes. It's just hoping that we don't have to reach too far down into our bench in order to, get some O-line depth.
Yep. So that's about it. If you missed the game, that's what you missed, man. You missed a lot of A lot of offensive linemen on the ground for the New Orleans Saints. Brian Breesy put on the show, fun kid to watch, and Isaiah
Bosky.
Fasaki, he put on a good showing as well.
Yeah.
I think this was another week that last week he came along a little bit last week, but last night, man, he had a couple finished with a sack. I don't think he got credit. He probably got like half of a sack because Breesy ended the play or whatever. But
Yeah.
he got credit for a half a sack last night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and what's the other kid? Man, his name escapes me, but last week he had like 3 sacks. He had another one on Sunday. Landon, I think his first name Landon something. I can't think of his last name.
Laporta or something like that.
But yeah, he had another good showing too. Once again, not somebody I think makes the roster, but he's definitely a practice squad. Week, I think right after or right before we did the show, the Jonathan Taylor deadline had been put out there as to look, we want, you got till Tuesday to figure this thing out. And I saw Deanna Rossini, she reported earlier that the talks are ongoing and they're getting closer, but it'll definitely come down to, a last second thing when it comes to tomorrow. It looks like Miami is the front runner. But it does look like other teams are involved as well. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Because she said not only are they willing to make the deal for him, but they're willing to pay him what it is he's asking for as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if somebody jumps Miami in that sweepstakes. But hopefully for Jonathan Taylor and for us just as fans, he's not a coach. Come the end of the day tomorrow, therefore we're actually seeing him playing football week 1, week 2 of this season. Once again, other teams have been making cuts. Nothing too crazy so far. The wildest thing I saw earlier was Colt McCoy being cut. I didn't think that was good. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Right. You trade for Josh Dobbs last week, which isn't better than Colt McCoy. But also your rookie, who is a fifth round pick, and he's looked decent, but again, not as good as Colt McCoy. And Colt McCoy was by far the longest tenured quarterback in that system. He was real familiar with what was going on there. So that was a head scratcher. But besides that, I haven't seen anything
nothing crazy.
Too crazy yet. I'm sure we're gonna get to that point, but I haven't seen anything too crazy yet. But once again, you got 32 teams going from 90 to 53 in the next 20. In the next 24, there's going to be players out there that we're looking like that. And there's going to be a lot of trades too. People who are on the verge of getting cut, but instead get traded to another team. This initial wave of waiver wires, we can't 10th on the waiver wire, which is going to allow us to be able to grab a good amount of players if we're actually in the market for them. I think mostly if we go out there to grab anybody, it'll be O-linemen, maybe still a linebacker, but O-line would definitely be where I look at us and be like, oh yeah, we're going for that. I saw Derek Barnett. He's basically gotten permission to seek a better opportunity. Philly says they want to keep him, but they understand how much they have in their DN room, and how many players they're going to be using, and he wants the opportunity to go out there and show what he can actually do. So they're going to entertain anything that they get for him, but they want to keep him.
Couldn't imagine that being much.
Really?
Yeah. For his trade value?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it being much. I mean,
I definitely think so.
What, he's 31,
he's not
32?
30 yet. I don't think he's 30 yet.
Seems like it.
Not Derek Barnett. I'll check though. But that's going to be an interesting one to see. I saw earlier that Darnell Mooney, he may also be a trade candidate here in the next day or so too. Yeah, he's only 27.
27?
Yeah.
Seems so much older than that.
So yeah, I definitely think that there's going to be some teams looking at him uh, over the next 24 hours or so as well.
Yeah, but the Eagles, they just so deep. They don't have to really entertain, anybody that's playing time or anything of that nature. I mean, they're going to get to the quarterback, stop the run by committee. Man, they got a ton of guys over there. But that's crazy. It
Yeah,
seems like
and that's the
everybody
thing.
been in the league for so much longer than that. That's crazy.
And that's the thing. Like it's crazy to be fuck off. Excuse my language, but for them to be like, look, we understand that you want that playing time. I think this is a contract year for him, so they understand that he wants that playing time to be able to show what he can do. So he
Right.
can lead into free agency strong. So that's, respect for that for sure. Trey Lance, we haven't been on here since the San Francisco 49ers finally admitted they wrong and traded Trey Lance for a fourth round pick to the Dallas Cowboys. There were two other teams who had put out offers that were reported to be 6th-round picks. What was it? The Buffalo Bills and the Ravens. I think it was the Ravens. But that were offering 6th-round picks, but Dallas came through, offered a 4th-rounder, got them. I don't go. What do you think about it? Because I don't.
My first initial reaction to the trade itself was San Francisco struck gold. 4th-round pick, we don't like put a lot of high value on 4th-round picks, but the fact
Yeah.
you got a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance, who the world felt like you reached for in the beginning, and you gave up so much for to get a 4th-round pick for him. And after we saw him for preseason, it would have been different if they didn't advertise him for preseason. And then they went out and got a 4th-round pick. I would have been like, okay. But after seeing him this preseason and you still got a 4th-round pick, oh yeah. San Francisco probably helped him pack. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, let's get you up out of here, bro. You got to get to Dallas. But I'm happy for Trey Lance, right? This is what he wanted. He wanted a fresh start. Um, he gets the a redo. He gets a do-over, as they say, man. So I'm happy for him. He's still young, and I wish him the best. But he didn't look hot at all, man. This preseason, I mean, he looked pretty bad, and there was a lot of speculation that hey, this may still be Trey Lance's team. We saw what Brock Purdy done last year, but this may still be Trey Lance's team. And the San Francisco fan base, they were crazy over Trey Lance. From the day they drafted him, they wanted him to be the face of the franchise. So he had all the support in the world. It just didn't pan out and translate on the field. So I
That's
think
what
San
fan.
Francisco worked wonders.
That's what fan bases do, though. They try to get behind the guy until they give them reason. Until he gives them reason to not be behind them. Like you said, from the day he was drafted, we knew that wasn't the answer.
I thought he was. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was when he got drafted.
And you're not the only one. There were a lot of people, and some of it was, well, it's Kyle Shanahan. He has to know something that we don't know.
Yeah.
and then they traded up for this. They got to be taking Mac Jones. Like that's how I looked at it. I was like, Mac Jones is the perfect player for them going forward. And now here we are. What, two years later? He missed his entire first season. Or was he just?
He basically missed his whole first season.
Well, no, he was healthy though. He just didn't play his first season. And then last season he started. He started game 1, played game 2, and they got hurt. I want to say I don't think he made it all the way through the second game of the season before he got hurt. So I mean, technically, we haven't seen what he can and can't be, honestly. But San Francisco struck gold with Brock Purdy. We talking about them striking gold. That's where they struck gold. They struck gold with Brock Purdy being the last pick in the draft and him turning to be something worth anything. And once again, them getting a 4th-round pick is definitely a win for them. Don't think that they should have got anything close to that, but they obviously other teams were interested in being able to get him in their building and seeing what they could do with him. So I mean I mean, it worked out. It didn't work out for him, but moving on from him for a fourth round pick was definitely better than the alternatives.
And out of all the teams that were interested in Trey Lance's services, I thought the Ravens would be the team that would have offered the fifth round maybe because I had everybody basically ordering, six and whatever, some player that they just wanted to part ways with. But the Ravens made more sense to me to offer more, but it might have been the Cowboys.
And I'm gonna say it made sense to me that it was the Cowboys because once again, Dak's contract ends before Lamar Jackson contract ends or Josh Allen contracts end. Once again, Jerry Jones have had some mixed feelings about Dak since before giving him this contract. So the signs are on the wall that look, man, we're still looking at ways to replace you going forward if this doesn't turn around. So yeah, that makes all the sense in the world to me. I don't think Trey Lance pans out for them either. But being able to get somebody in the building, and you're looking at I think 2 more years of Dak, to see if anything rubs off on Trey Lance or if you can make Trey Lance into something going forward, beyond Dak's current contract.
And this had nothing to do with contracts for me. I just saw this as a 2-year window to have a backup quarterback, a serviceable backup quarterback that kind of fits the scheme, especially with the
Oh
Ravens.
no, but two in Dallas.
One more time.
No, I was saying it's not about that because he won't be QB2 in Dallas.
No, 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 not this year. But I'm saying next year, if this time comes back around and he's still on the roster and he's the number two quarterback, I'm saying it's not shocking to me or anything.
Yeah, but a fourth round pick. Yeah. Once again, I don't know. Once again, that's hoping that he's better, just a little better than Cooper Rush, and like that, like that doesn't help you any, honestly. Um, but I mean, I guess we'll see.
Cooper Rush won what as a starting quarterback last year?
What did he go 5-1?
5-1.
5-1, I think. I think his loss was the Eagles.
Something like that.
I think.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right. Too much about Trey Lance.
So last week we did our predictions for the AFC South and the NFC South. We both came to the same conclusions of one team. Each division presenting only one playoff team. We had the New Orleans Saints in the NFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC South. Today we're going to tackle the AFC West, and the NFC West. Let's start with the NFC West because I feel like that's going to be the easier one to blow through for sure.
So, so we both got the Cardinals to win in that division.
Easily running away with it, like we just boat race.
All right. So let's get into it. So I think this one's gonna be much different from what we had last week, right? Because we agreed on a bunch of picks, a bunch of players, all this good stuff, right? But this division is very competitive.
Which one?
The NFC East.
West.
I'm sorry, West. I think it's going to be very competitive.
Okay. Let's
let's
go. Because now I'm excited. I was dreading covering this division, but now
I'm happy. So
go ahead.
this division, to me, relies on how well Geno Smith can play this season. If he can play like Geno Smith of last year, I think Seattle has a chance of competing, not winning, but seriously competing for this division. I do think the Seattle Seahawks make the playoffs. They may not represent their division, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because San Francisco is the better team. But if Geno can play how he played last year, I think they have a chance. If we recall the playoff game, Geno gave Seattle a puncher's chance in that game. That was a game up until halftime when they allowed Christian McCaffrey to score the touchdown right before halftime to kind of blow the game open in a way because San Francisco got the ball again back at half, scored again. And we all knew that Seattle didn't have the beef up front. They didn't have the tackles. They didn't have the aggressive front seven to hang with San Francisco. I really thought Seattle was going to take everything that they had, throw it to the D tackle position, and they were kind of smarter than that. They picked and choose players that they felt fit the scheme
Yeah.
to go along with what they already had, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to start with the one guy I was most excited about, right? And that guy was Bobby Wagner. We saw Bobby Wagner go play one season with the Rams, and he was still Bobby Wagner. Still fast to the ball, still run sideline to sideline, still probably the best zone linebacker in football. He's definitely up there, and that's remarkable for his age. Still a tackling machine, still a vocal leader. Everything you look for in a linebacker, Bobby Wagner, they got him back in house, right? He's going to definitely rev up the defense, definitely lead the defense. Secondly, they was missing Jamal Adams. They get Jamal Adams back this year, so that's two bona fide leaders on defense, right? I don't know if it gets any more realer for leadership out of those two guys. Then they went out and got Draymond Jones to play D tackle. They got Darren Reed in house to beef up the line as well.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about Seattle. They reassured Geno's line. He had some line issues. They went out and got some guys on that line as well. And they also drafted the kid, the receiver, to
Yep.
go along with Tyler Lockett and DJ.
Jackson Smith
Yeah,
and Jigba. Yeah.
we already know what Kenny Walker was last year, right? So I'm excited about Seattle. I'm not gonna lie. This was one of those teams I kind of saw them like a lot of folks saw the Giants. You saw what the Giants did last year, and you saying, "Hey, we're betting on Daniel Jones being even better, so therefore we have faith in the Giants." I saw what Geno did last year, and I think Geno is going to be just slightly better. Not nothing crazy, but I think he's going to just be slightly better. That could be in the red zone. That can be the last 2 minutes for the half, whatever. Geno has to find a way to be better. And if he can be better, I can see Seattle competing, seriously competing with San Francisco.
Okay, so this still is okay. Okay, time out. Let's back up. Because when you said that this division was going to be competitive, I thought you meant 1 through 4. You just mean between Seattle and San Francisco.
How the hell could it be competitive? Yeah, the whole
It's not
division's not
competitive. It's not a competitive division then. No,
no,
you
no,
made
no,
it
no,
seem
no,
like
no.
at
I'm
least 3 of these teams
okay.
had a chance of winning it or
No,
something like that. That's why I was like, well, what? What do you see
no,
it that I haven't
no.
come across?
Oh no.
Okay, so that
In
makes more
fact,
sense.
it's so not competitive. By the time we get to Arizona, you're probably gonna want to cut the phone off on me. I feel like their team is so bad. So
So I agree with you, Seattle. I disagree with you in some spots. So um, I'm guessing you're going to take San Francisco to win this division, though. Correct?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we both got San Francisco winning. We both got Seattle coming in second. I also have Seattle making the playoffs. Um,
Didn't see that from you. Okay.
I don't really care for too many of their offseason moves. Honestly, the Draymond Jones one was a big one for me. That was probably my favorite. Um,
More
Jackson
than
Smith
Bobby
and
Wagner.
yeah, even more than Bobby Wagner. Yeah.
Wow.
Jackson Smith and Bobby Wagner to me is not something they absolutely needed, but it's good for him to be back where he should have never left to me. So it's more of a feel good story than that's what they absolutely needed to me. Um,
Well, I think things would have been a little different if Bobby Wagner was a part of that team last year when they played San Francisco. Not saying the outcome would have been different, but I just think Seattle was missing a leader. They had no one on the field for them. And they were playing probably one of the best offenses, one of the most complete teams, and they were trading punches with them. And for a second, you were saying, "Hold up, Seattle has a chance." I mean, it was a game for 2 quarters.
yeah, but that leader could have been Jamal Adams. Just Jamal Adams being healthy could have been the difference, you know?
But to
So
have but to have both now, I mean, you're back to having both and a better D line. I'm just saying, if I'm Seattle, I
better
would
D
go
line
into
might
this
be a
feeling.
stretch too. Let's not
You
let's
don't think so? They had no push in the interior, like
they
zero.
still don't have no push in their interior. Who Al Woods? Well, who is the push
Well,
in
he was
their
more of a rusher.
interior?
He's more of a run stopper. Jones is more of a D tackle that's geared to get the quarterback. You know,
Jermaine Jones is a DN. Like they can try to label him as a D tackle. That is a DN.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I don't feel like their D line is worse. Maybe it is better, but I don't think it's this big upgrade that happened.
yeah.
Um,
I don't think it's kind of like what we did in a way. Like we lost guys, but you brought serviceable guys in,
yeah,
and now
exactly.
you're saying by committee we're better. Like maybe
And I didn't.
David Onyemata is better than whoever, right? But as a
Yeah,
whole, I feel like we're better. We're better using everybody we have rotation included than what we were last year, and I think the same about Seattle.
Bobby Wagner is for sure an upgrade over whoever was in the middle of their defense last year. And just getting Jamal Adams back is 100% upgrade to a secondary that held their own last year anyway. Like that
Yeah.
defense was still solid last year, so
Right.
that wasn't a concern. And honestly, their offense was less of a concern last year because we're talking about Geno Smith, who was a top 5 quarterback for most of the season last year, and an offense who was putting up top 5, yeah, top 5 most points in the league for a lot of the season, and they just added to that. You get Kenneth Walker back healthy. Hopefully, you drafted an insurance policy with him with Zach Charbonnet, who's going to play. Like you don't invest in a player that high in the draft without intending on actually using him. And then you double down on what was your strength, which was receiver, with by taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. So if anything, I think Geno Smith can play if he goes out there and just plays as well as he did last year, they're setting themselves up to be in the same position as they were last year, if not better. I think San Francisco would have to see probably some injuries pile up on them in order for Seattle to actually be able to take the division from them, or Bosa not showing up, but I think they've always intended on paying him, so I think he gets paid, and that situation is resolved before game 1. But yeah, I got San Francisco probably, and once again, we're not talking about a wide margin. I think San Francisco finishes the season probably 13-4, and Seattle was right behind them at 11-6.
Mm-hmm. So while we're on San Francisco, and I think this is the reason why I feel like Seattle has a more of a chance than you to compete for this division. We just talked about Geno Smith, right? Even if he plays average, they can go out there and repeat what they did last year. There's a lot of concern around.
Well, he can't play average. He has to play how he played last year.
That's probably going to be his average moving forward. Like that's what we're expecting.
You hope so, but once again, we have way more than last season of a sample size of Geno Smith, and last season was the first time we ever got that.
True. I'm more concerned about Brock Purdy than I am with Geno Smith.
Okay.
I feel Geno Smith can go out and come close to doing what he did last year, more than the target that's going to be on Brock Purdy. He was I don't want to say one-hit wonder because he can do it again this year, but he was instant gold for San Francisco last year, and they feel so invested that either Trey Lance was so bad, either way they decided to part ways and say, hey, this Trey Lance thing is over, right? We got our guy in Brock Purdy, but we know how quick the NFL can catch on to your traits, your tendencies, your pros and cons. So now you have a player still was a 7th-round pick. No one saw him in this light, and here he is, asked to lead the San Francisco team, who looks destined for a Super Bowl run. He's asked to go out and compete again. I don't think it's going to be as easy for him as it was last year. They got, we have tape on him and all that good stuff, and we know your second year is going to be harder, right? Teams can game plan for you a little bit better. But the way everybody's looking at Geno Smith, that's kind of how I look at Brock Purdy. Still got something to prove.
And we look at this completely different. I have zero worries about Brock Purdy. I think it's going to be easier for Brock Purdy this year than it was last year. The first part of that is San Francisco's offense is 100% about scheme. 100%. I don't. Man, you had the conversation yesterday. You know how bad you have to be to not be able to be successful as the quarterback of this system. Like Trey Lance was just that bad. It wasn't that he didn't beat out Brock Purdy. It's that he didn't beat out Sam Darnold. So no, we're not keeping the third quarterback if you're gonna be this bad. I think Brock Purdy is as good as Alex Smith was in San Francisco. I mean, not Alex Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo was in San Francisco. And the thing that kept them from winning a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo was injuries. So you start off with Brock Purdy. He takes over in his first season. He gets you where he gets you to, and he gets hurt. Well, is that something that's going to be reoccurring like it was with Jimmy G? If so, then yeah, this team's not going far. They're going to be in the same cycle of we're going to win 11 games, and then we're going to be sent home in the division round because our quarterback, we've had this cycle through quarterbacks throughout the season. If he can stay healthy, yeah, they got a chance of winning the Super Bowl this year, as long as everything else plays right, because you're looking at a team that's going to focus heavy on, of course, the run with Christian McCaffrey, and then you got guys like George Kittle, who was super dependable, and you got Deebo Samuel, who's coming back with something to prove this season. Brandon Ayuk in another year, he's been getting better every year. Like the talent around him is crazy, to where it's not, never are they going to sit back and say, Brock Purdy, you need to drop back 35 times and win us this football game. That's never going to be the case. So you're not looking for him to come and rescue you. You're looking for him to basically blend in. We said it about Jimmy G a lot of the time. Just don't lose the game. You ain't got to go win it. Just don't go out there and turn the ball over twice in horrible situations and put our backs against the wall. And I think Brock Purdy will be able to do that.
I'm hoping he can, right? It's a feel-good story, Cinderella kind of story. You're pulling for the kid, but deep down inside, I just know how hard it is to advance from stage 1 to stage 2 in football. That's why they have these tier 2 quarterbacks who've never made that jump, or tier 3 quarterbacks for that sense. That's never made the step up to tier 2. The good thing about Brock Purdy is he has so much talent surrounding him, from the offensive line to the running back core. However you want to go.
And that would be my argument. Whatever tier you see him in right now is good enough for him to win a Super Bowl. And if he gets better, that's just a plus. Like as long as he can stay healthy, as good as he was last year, that's good enough to win a Super Bowl. He doesn't have to get any better. He just has to stay healthy.
And I disagree. I don't think that he has to stay healthy. I think Christian McCaffrey has to stay healthy.
I think Christian McCaffrey can go out. They plug in Elijah Mitchell. They're going to start back doing more with Deebo Samuel. Like it would take a lot of injuries to pile up on that offense, I think, for things to actually start going wrong and being like, oh, now Brock Purdy, you got to do more, and I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's a big drop off from Chris, and with all due respect for Elijah Moore, who held his own until the injury, but it's a big jump from Christian McCaffrey to Elijah Moore.
100%. But I had them as Super Bowl contenders last year before they even got Christian McCaffrey. A lot of people did. Christian McCaffrey just strengthened that belief. But people, once again, you're talking about a run game that's been successful with Raheem Mostert and Elijah Mitchell and whoever else you want to throw in there. They're going to be.
Who's the other person there? Jeff somebody. Who was that?
Jeff Wilson Jr.
They traded.
They're going to be able to plug in running back to have a successful run game. No, it might not be Christian McCaffrey going out there for 1,500 yards and 600 yards receiving or whatever the case may be. But no, that run game is going to be successful because their scheme is successful.
So that's what we shall see. So how do you see the rest of this division shaping up after those two teams that we both have making the playoffs?
I guess we'll go to the Cardinals next because I still think that the Cardinals finished third in this division this year.
Okay.
We talked a little earlier about the questionable move they made, trading away cutting Colt McCoy after bringing in via trade Joshua Dobbs and, rolling with their 5th round draft pick at quarterback for a lot through this preseason. Kyler Murray went on the pup list. So he first 4 weeks we're not seeing him. We all expected that. I honestly don't expect to see him. If we see him at all this season, I would think it'd be the second half of the season. It won't matter by then,
Right.
this team is going to do a lot of running with James Conner. Defensively, I think they're an okay defense, but if they can't put up points and they're on the field all the time, it won't matter how okay they are. They're going to look bad. Um, Still, I think that this team, once again, you're talking about, we know how division games go, how those can always end up being tougher than you expect and things of that nature. I can still see the Cardinals coming out of this season with 4 wins, especially if Kyler Murray does return towards the end of the season and, they start trying to put things in place for next season and things start, they start trying to actually figure out what it is that they want to do going forward if they steal a couple games at the back end of the season. But I think they win 4 games, 5 games this year, and that's more than what I think the Rams are going to win. So that puts them at third in this division. But there's not much to talk about when it comes to this Arizona Cardinals team, except for next offseason and the position that they put themselves in when it comes to draft capital going forward.
You're absolutely right. I would love to tell you they're going to be a bad football team because of the Kyler Murray injury. He's probably going to miss 50% of the season, if not more. I would love to throw in the fact that they're missing their number one receiver from last year, DeAndre Hopkins. But that has nothing to do with why this team is going to be that bad. They're just a bad football team. I know Buda Baker, who's one of the best safeties in football. There's talks about, he requested a trade in this offseason. Um, this team just lacked leadership,
Did
man.
he? Or was
I
it just
believe so.
Isaiah Simmons?
No. I think it was Buda Baker. I think the Buda Baker speculation was even before Isaiah Simmons. It was just easier for them to part ways with Isaiah Simmons, who they traded to the
It would have been
Giants.
a lot easier to part ways with Buda Baker if he demanded a trade.
I don't think so. He's still one of the best safeties in football. You're still lining out. They were still
Once
lining
again,
Isaiah
but we're
Simmons up,
talking
but
about a team who's doing their best to acquire draft capital. Imagine what you could get for Buda Baker if that's what if that's what you wanted to be doing.
I don't think.
Oh no, yeah, I forgot about that. No, he's not going nowhere. They redid his contract. Yeah,
Yeah, it's about the, so.
so
But
he's not going
let's
nowhere.
say,
I'm talking about after. So whatever he was, I think he just wanted more money, and he got that. I don't think he wanted out. I think he just wanted more
I
money.
know he.
So
I
he
think
got
he
that.
really I think he really wanted to be out. I'm not gonna lie. I think he really wanted to be out.
Maybe so, but now he's definitely not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
he's locked
So
in now.
yeah.
Money. It makes everything better. But they were still had no direction to go with a defense. You're looking at Isaiah Simmons out there still lining up as safety at times. He never got a chance to rush the quarterback, which in New York, that's probably all they're going to use him.
I disagree. I think he does. I think he still plays just safety in New York too. I think
he has to go get the quarterback, bro.
no, he doesn't.
It makes no sense for him to be on the field in space
He
for
does
the
not.
whole game. Nah, he has to go get the quarterback. I
He
don't care
that
if it's on third down, on whatever down. He has to have the
that
opportunity to go
that
get
guy
the
is not. He is not a linebacker in the NFL.
Oh,
Like
no,
you put him
you don't
back
have
there
to
at
be.
safety, and that's where he needs to be.
Yeah, you don't have to be a linebacker to be effective blitzing the quarterback.
You blitzing out of the safety position?
Yeah, they had plenty safeties over the NFL to do that.
Yeah, nah, we not. No, nah.
What you mean?
That's a,
No, that's
that's
the
a, that's
thing.
a, huh?
That's the thing. CJ Gardner
CJ
Johnson.
Gardner Johnson was a slot corner. That's why he blitzed, because he was a slot corner.
He was a safety.
He was a slot corner.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was technically
When
a
he
safety,
played,
though.
when he actually played safety, when did he get to blitz? When he was actually back there alongside Michael Jenkins, when did he get to blitz? No, when he got in the nickel, when he got in the nickel and when he got in the slot, that's when he was able to blitz. I'm telling you that
CJ Gardner Johnson was on the field for us when he was in the slot. He never
exactly.
was 20 yards off the ball.
This isn't what Isaiah Simmons will be doing.
No, well, he's not even the same player as CJ Gardner Johnson. What I'm saying is they have to allow him some opportunity to blitz the quarterback. That's what I would like. He even said it himself. He would like the opportunity to do what he feels like he does best, which is go get the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get that opportunity. But continue about Arizona.
I will be shocked if he doesn't. But yeah, it's just a bad that team, man, from top to bottom, lack leadership. And I mean, we saw the writing on the wall with Kyler Murray that came out last year. You know, whenever your quarterback is in question about leadership and preparation and things of that nature, it's never a good look for the franchise. So this is just a team, man, that you gave them a cap of, I think you said 4 to 5 wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's where actually I see the Rams, and I had the Cardinals winning, man, maybe 2 to 3 games this upcoming year.
That's crazy because I'm not as down on that team as a whole as you are.
Yeah.
I the past few years I've looked at Arizona and been like, man, that team's not a good team. And they've gone out there and done what they've done. You know, last year before the Kyler injury and the year before. I mean, what this gonna be his 5th year? This would be Kyler's 5th year or 4th year? His fourth year.
Mm-hmm.
So his first 2 years, you know, them winning. I think they won 10 games each year.
Well, they won.
Because they started
in a row or something at some
yeah, because they started off hot and then they cooled down towards the back half of each season.
Same Cardinals.
yeah, but once again, those teams were good. Like and most of those pieces are still floating around there. You know, even with no D Hop, they didn't have D Hop for 6 weeks last year to start the season. And Hollywood Brown was able to look good in his absence. That's somebody that's still there. Once again, James Conner, he's still there. So I think, of course, yeah, Isaiah Simmons is a big piece to us because we see the talent, but he wasn't able to be what he should have been on their team. So it's not a huge loss for them, you know. And then DeAndre Hopkins, we know what he is. You know, that's definitely somebody you prefer to have, but he's gone. I think Hollywood Brown is going to have a good season for them. And they have a rookie. I can't think of his name right now, but they have a rookie wide receiver who looks promising too. So I definitely think that they're going to be able to get into some of these games and pull out a 17-13 victory, or 24-21 victory 4 times this year. Whether it be against the Rams, whether it be Seattle, whether it be heck, Carolina, I don't know, I don't have their schedule in front of me, but yeah, I have more confidence in them getting the 5 games than I do the Rams.
Okay, so now let's turn our attention to the Rams. Obviously, you have them winning lesser games than what you have the Cardinals.
Right.
When I look at the Rams, I see a team that's very similar to the Arizona Cardinals, right? Kind of rebuild mode, right? They traded away Jalen Ramsey to the Miami Dolphins, I believe, for what, a 2nd-round pick? Was it a 2nd or 3rd or?
I'm gonna look because I don't even remember what the compensation for that was, so I'll look.
One or the other. So they parted ways with Jalen Ramsey. We knew about the Matthew Stafford injury. The days of Odell Beckham are over. They
A
also
third.
trade a third.
Yep,
They
a third.
they moved on from what was the receiver from Jacksonville a couple years ago?
Receiver from Jacksonville.
I think Robinson was his last name. I can't think of his first name right now. I believe it was Robinson.
A
I
receiver?
may be tripping. Yeah. Play for the Rams. I don't know. I'm not about to think about it that hard. But he
Yeah, I
was
was
there
about to
when Blake
say.
when Blake Bortles was in Jacksonville. He was there. He was their number one. And then he went to the Bears. They traded him for a 6th-round pick the previous year. So the glory days are over is basically what I'm saying for the Rams. Todd Gurley, all those guys. This is rebuild, right? I don't think they have no one on their roster outside of number 99. We're not going to even say his name. I don't think they have anybody on their roster that they're just like glued to, attached to, stuck to for moving on at this point. Cooper Cup. I forgot about Cooper Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yep. Injuries. They make you forget about some guys, man. So I have them winning 3 to 4 games this year. I have them winning 3 to 4 games. I have them finishing 3rd in this division. Anytime you have the best defensive player in football, it has to mean something. It has to count for something.
Does it? But continue.
Oh, it does. 99 is for real.
Myles Garrett was for real in Cleveland all them years before they were able to do anything too. It ain't account for nothing. It ain't account for nothing.
They won a couple games. They won more than 3 and 4 games every year he was there. And they also lost Leonard Floyd this year too.
Yeah.
So I just think, basically they're going to find a way, like you said, to compete in these low scoring games. We know they don't have the offense to go up and down the field. You just brought up the point that they still have Cooper Cup now. I feel even more confident about that. I definitely think that they find a way to win 3 to 4 games, unless obviously they tank for better drafting rights.
So I was about to sit here when you started on the Rams. I was like, man, he's going to make me change my mind when I really think about it. They're not that much worse than what Arizona is. If they're worse at all, they may be on even playing field.
Probably
Um,
so, especially when you
but
take away Kyler Murray.
yeah, for sure. But then I was like, let me pull up their schedule because my mindset about the Rams is okay. You get Matthew Stafford back, veteran quarterback. You love that. That offensive line is a question mark. We'll see how that plays out. You
Yep.
got Cam Akers back in your backfield. He's a decent running back. You got Tyler Higbee. He's a decent tight end. You got Cooper Cup. Couldn't tell you who their second wide receiver gonna be, but it doesn't matter because you
Tutu.
got Cooper Cup.
I think
Tutu,
Tutu.
yeah, so nobody. So yeah, it doesn't matter because you have Cooper Cup. Cool. Defensively, Aaron Donald, Aaron Donald, Aaron Donald. Like that's about it.
Hmm.
So that leads me to believe that a lot of the games that the Rams, if the Rams are to win football games, they're going to be shootouts. How many shootouts is Matthew Stafford at this age winning with just Cooper Cup?
I would say more than what the second string quarterback for the Cardinals is winning with Brandell Moore, whoever is left over there in
I
Arizona.
forgot about Rondell Moore. Yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you brought him up. So Rondell Moore, Hollywood Brown. I wish I knew the rookie's name. I should look it up, but I don't feel like it. And then of course James Conner, Zach Ertz. Forgot about Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is
Who's hurt?
healthy. No,
I
he's
think
healthy. He's
he's
back now.
healthy.
Yeah. Um, but a defense that's going to in my opinion, that's going to play better than the Rams defense. I think Arizona's defense is going to be better than whatever the Rams produce. But regardless of any of that, let's look at their schedule
Hmm.
because what point, how many games in do you think it would? At what point of the season do you get to before you decide tank for you?
For
If
me,
yeah, if you were running this team, how many losses? What record do you get to before you're like, all right, let's tank this thing out?
realistically, if I'm the Rams, if we start 0-4, like, yeah, we
Right,
got
right then you're like,
yeah,
okay.
we got to tuck our tail.
So their first game is at Seattle, won or loss.
Loss,
Then they're at home against San Francisco.
loss,
Then they go to Cincy.
loss. Yeah,
Then they go to Indianapolis.
that's a 50-50. That can be one of those games where we're talking about, hey, we got a chance here.
Yep. And then they got Philly.
Oh, that's a loss.
So so 1 4 through 5 games for Reg. That's okay. Let's
That's
start looking
tank.
at a tank now. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go a little further. Let's go week 6. You got the Cardinals. We're gonna call
Mm-hmm.
that 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Week 7 is the Steelers. I think the Steelers is probably a better team. I think that's a win for the Steelers.
Still
And then you
another
got the
50. I would still consider that a 50-50.
okay. And then you got week 8 Cowboys. So through 8 games, at best, three and
Two and
five,
six. 2-6.
2 and 6.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah, you tank after that.
And
And oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's the same reason why I was saying about the Cardinals almost, to be honest with you. Their schedule, looking at their roster and their schedule, it's the same. It's like it basically comes down to who you're feeling more, what team you're more confident in. Arizona, the Cardinals, they open up against the Commanders, right?
Okay.
I definitely think the Commanders D line and as a whole is just a better team than the Arizona Cardinals. Then they go on to the Giants. I think that's an easy win for the Giants. They got the Cowboys, easy win for the Cowboys, and then they got San Francisco. Definitely a win for for San Francisco. And then you play the Bengals. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
chance where they can start 0-6. One, two, three, four,
5.
five.
Yeah.
0-5. And then you have the Rams. So if you say, hey, we beat the Rams, cool. Well, then you go
Mm-hmm.
right back and you got the Hawks, the Ravens, and the Browns. That's a tough schedule. Like if they go winless in that whole stretch, it wouldn't surprise me. Or if they manage to win 2 games, it doesn't surprise me.
True.
So at some point, if both teams are identical at 2-6 halfway, and whoever has the worst record is going to get the first round pick, if I'm either team, I'm considering tanking. I mean,
I think I think the Rams would consider it more so than the Cardinals. But also
absolutely.
The thing about the Cardinals for me, once again, I expect Kyler Murray the second half of the season. That changes things for Arizona. Just having him at quarterback, regardless of what you feel about it, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but just
But
having him back there
what,
at quarterback changes things.
so you're saying week 10,
Let's say week 10.
you're rolling
Wait,
Kyler Murray out there.
where's their bye week at? Because we could probably go further. Their bye week is week 14. So let's say he don't even come back till week 15. Let's say week 15 is the first game we see Kyler Murray next year. They're home to the 49ers. They go to Chicago. They go to Philly, and then they play the Seahawks. If you tell me that before then, the only game they had, let's say before then they won 2 games. Let's say they beat the Rams in one of their games. They split with the Rams, and then let's say they beat Houston. And then they came down the stretch with Kyler Murray in these last 4 games and went 2-2. That gives them 4 wins. I don't looking at this. I mean, basically them and the Rams, of course, have the same schedule,
Right.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, we're talking about after 8 games, if the Rams are 2-6, what else we got? Like who we
Right.
got on? What's his name? Stetson Bennett. Let's see what you got.
Come on. Come
Matthew
on.
Stafford. You
Come
want
on.
to go somewhere else? We can see if somebody got hurt somewhere. You that feel like you can keep them in
Yep.
contention. Let's ship you out, Stetson Bennett, Cooper Cup. We only gonna play you so much because we don't need you getting hurt. Because once again, you one of the guys we want around for. But for Arizona is Tyler's back. Let's see what he got. Let's get him some run before next season. So I think that's really what the difference ends up being is if both of these teams look like they're in tank mode early, it could change for Arizona late just because of getting Kyler Murray back. And that could
Yeah.
vault them to 2 more wins, 3 more wins
It
than the
could.
Rams. Yeah.
Yeah, it could. It could.
And that's really the biggest difference I think we see between that. So we both got San Francisco winning the NFC West. We got Seattle right behind them. Rams, Arizona. We both got them picking top 5, top
Right.
7 in next year's draft, which
Top
they
one,
probably
one,
preferred
one and two.
going next year. The Caleb Williams sweepstakes. All right, so let's go to the
Basically.
AFC. Let's go to the AFC West. This should be this probably won't be more interesting of a conversation, but we'll see. So the AFC West. Let's start from the bottom. Who do you have finishing last in the AFC West?
Raiders.
All right, why? What you got on the Raiders?
I just think that they are the least favorite team. I have of course KC
KC, yeah, the
walking
Chargers, and then the
away
Broncos.
walking away with walking away with this division. The Chargers, I'm not as big as on the Chargers and I'm at with everybody else. And the Broncos, I have to consider them bringing in Sean Payton and Russell Wilson playing better. Um, so I'm looking at Russell Wilson's ceiling and I'm looking at Jimmy G ceiling, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson has a higher ceiling. And because of that, that's the only true and Sean Payton, that's the only true reason why I'm taking the Raiders to be the worst team in this division. The Raiders had a very busy off season with releases and bringing other guys on, drafting the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they brought on Tyree Wilson to go along with Max Crosby. I think that's going to be
I love that.
brilliant. Yeah, that's going to be brilliant. 2 guys with the same motor. Um, same techniques and whatnot. I think good things are going to come with that. They were able to get Josh Jacobs under contract some way, somehow. You do lose Derek Carr, but you bring in Jimmy G. You still got Devontae Adams. You also complement that with Jacoby Myers. And I
You
mean,
lose
Darren
Darren
Waller,
Waller.
but you bring in Michael Myers. So,
Yep.
I mean, you replaced everything that went house. So, on paper, it looks great. They, for sure, the secondary a little bit more with Marcus Peters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they did part ways with OJ Howard, but once again, he really didn't bring anything to the table. So on paper, you have more notable names. I feel like with the Raiders, uh, but I'm going to kind of lean my hat to Russell Wilson, who is a Super Bowl quarterback, could be a two-time Super Bowl quarterback, and Sean Payton, who's also had success in one Super Bowl. I'm going to lean my hat to that, to seeing a better version, thinking when healthy, I'm going to see a better version of Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton, still thinking that he hasn't touched his ceiling. They're going to find a way to be more effective running the ball, and they still have a pretty solid defense. So I'm just leaning my hat more on knowledge and wisdom and experience more than the younger talent that I'm seeing with the Raiders.
So okay, cool. I got Denver finishing last in this
Okay.
division. Um, Russell Wilson may have a higher ceiling than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has a higher floor. I think once again, I think what we saw from
Do we
Russell
really?
Wilson. I think what we saw from Russell. Well, no, and I think I know for a fact Russell Wilson last year at quarterback we've never seen from Jimmy G. In a season of football, you've never seen that bad of quarterback play from Jimmy G. So I'm going to say
He
that
has been
Jimmy
in
G
some
has a
pretty.
higher floor than Russell Wilson does.
Jimmy G has been in some pretty good systems though.
Cool, and he's in another one with Josh McDaniels, especially when your number one target is Devontae Adams, who's going to see 160 balls this year and going to come down with 120 of them probably.
I think the biggest thing for Jimmy G, even probably more than Devontae Adams, is that they're going to be able to run the football. Um,
Um, True, but but they're not just going to run the football. Jimmy G is a capable quarterback. They didn't bring in Jacoby Myers in order and pay him what they paid him in order for him to just be a guy. Like they're going to use him. Like they're going to throw the football a good bit.
they get that man decent money. He got average money. They didn't go crazy. They
I
got
mean,
$8
for a
million.
while, yeah.
Yeah,
Michael Thomas got what 10? So yeah, like that they gave him good quarterback money this offseason.
Michael
I want to
Thomas
say
was
that too.
in-house. He worked his
like
deal. But I feel
yeah,
what you're
like
saying. I feel what you're saying. So maybe his flooring, he does have a higher floor. But I think Russell Wilson, I expect to see Russell Wilson play much better this year. Right? Much better
I
than
mean,
what we saw last year.
oh no,
And
I was just about to
and
say maybe so. Like
yeah,
I'm expecting him to. I'm not saying he's going to look like he looked last year. I'm just giving my argument as to why I looked at Vegas and looked at Denver and was like, yeah, give me Vegas. But
I got you.
that's the first thing. Quarterback Jimmy G. I think I know what Jimmy G is, especially if he has a Devontae Adams, as his number one receiver. Cool. You talked about Josh Jacobs. Had a good. You talking about the NFL's rushing leader last year. You got a good run game. Darren Waller out, Michael Mayer in. Michael Mayer was one of those tight ends we looked at during the draft process and said, yeah, this is one of the best. He may be the best tight
Yeah.
end in this draft.
Overall.
You add Jacoby Myers, who we just talked about on offense, and then on defense, like you say, Tyree Wilson. Somebody you didn't even bring up just now. Matter of fact, I didn't want to cut you off, but who was it? It's another DN. Jordan Willis, another rotation guy who's going to get out on that edge and be able to get after the quarterback. You talked about Marcus Peters, who got added. Marcus Epps at safety, like that's
Yeah.
because we talked about their secondary being the weakest part of their team last year.
Probably still is.
It probably still is, but it's better than what it was last year.
Well, couldn't get any worse.
And 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 they're healthier than what the Denver Broncos is, even starting now. Like right now, we're looking at Jerry Jeudy being hurt. We don't know what Javonte Williams is going to look like because it seems like, from what I hear, they're saying that he's good to go, but it kind of seems like he's being rushed back, which isn't going to be a good. They lost Tim Patrick already for the season,
Yep.
so
KJ Hamler is hurt too.
line already. The offensive line isn't great. So I have way bigger concerns about that Denver team than I do about a Vegas team that I look at and I'm like, on paper, average, you know, and I might look at that Denver team and say, oh, this is a good team. But then once I start marking off the injuries, it's like, nah, I don't think this team is going to actually be, better than Vegas.
What you thought? Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely leaning more on just on leadership, man. Uh, Knowledge of the game and things of that nature coming from Sean Payton and Russell Wilson more than what I'm giving credit to the Raiders for at this point. If you go player by player, if you look at these teams on paper, I think the Raiders are the better team on paper, but also have to consider Devontae Adams had 14, 15 yards receiving last year. Josh Jacobs led the lead in rushing, I believe, if I recall. Um,
Yep.
and with all that, they finished one game better than the Broncos. And we know how bad Russell Wilson played. We know how bad play calling was. We know how horrible they were at running the football. So if any of that improves, right, I got to take the Broncos.
But I'm saying the same thing about the Raiders. You give me Josh Jacobs being in that top 5 at running back again, Devontae Adams being a top 2 receiver most likely, the way he's been, going these past few years, and then you tell me that their defense is better. Okay, well, I can see them improving by 2 games of what they was last year.
Gotcha. So we kind of see that division just like we see every other one. Still panning out the same. I expect you have KC winning this division, followed by San Diego by 3 games or so.
3 games? No, it's going to be much closer. It's going to be much closer than that for me. Justin Herbert in another season. You already know what I think of Justin Herbert. We're talking about somebody who I consider top 5 quarterback.
Okay.
Justin Herbert is that guy. Austin Eckler, once again, somebody who I think over the past 2-3 seasons, he's been top 5 in touchdown scores each season. I know he led the league two years ago in touchdown score. We're talking about somebody who can run the football, who can receive it. He's one of the best receiving backs we got in this league. Keenan Allen, you know what he is when he's healthy. Mike Williams, you know what he is when he's healthy. How they combat that? They go draft Quentin Johnston out of TCU. That's a guy that's going to be able to go out there and produce from day one, especially if he's able to go out there week 1 as their third wide receiver. Not being thrown into the fire as their number 1 and number 2 right out of the gate. Defensively, we know what Bosa is when healthy. We got Asante Samuel Jr. Hopefully we get a full season of J.C. Jackson this year. Khalil Mack still over there. This is a really good team. And I think the difference between last year they made it to the playoffs. They had that big meltdown against Jacksonville. I think the biggest difference between last year and this year is play calling. Out with Joe Lombardi, in with Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is going to be a way more aggressive coach, but he's going to be a way more effective coach as well. I can't say the Chargers need too much more aggression in their life, but they need more effective. But they need more effective play calling when it matters. And I think Kellen Moore is going to be able to present a scheme and effective play calling in those key moments that'll have them winning 12, 13 games this year. And then I will get to Kansas City once I let you talk to the Chargers. I'll get to why I think Kansas City isn't winning 14 games like I'm quite sure most people got them winning.
Yeah. So the Chargers, I view them just as how I saw them last year. If you tell me that they sneak into the playoffs, yeah, I see it. If you tell me you like their future and all this good stuff because of who their quarterback is, I see it. But I think that this was another team that was kind of assembled with a whole lot of key free agent additions that just haven't glued together, gelled together, and panned out. Mike Williams had a pretty solid year last year for them. Keenan Allen played the majority of the games, and combined, they still couldn't be the overpowering receiving duel that we thought that they would be. They added another kid, this year as well. I can't think of his name off the bat. Quinn Johnson. So yeah, who's supposed to add a little bit more. Although he's a big body guy, just like they are, supposed to add another layer, another flash to this offense. And if that's the case, then I do believe much more in this Chargers offense. Austin Eckler, right? All world running back, man. Catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do it all. I have no issues with this team offensively, except for when they need to make the play. It seemed like an offense that failed to make it. Like you said, it could be play calling.
It is play calling. It's not could be. It is play calling.
so we got play calling. But also it's a defense that was assembled as well that I have not seen lead the way. I haven't seen these guys lead the lead in sacks. I haven't seen the takeaways. Derwin James missed a lot. He was back last year.
Derwin James missed a lot too, yeah.
Yeah, you can make. Well, he played a lot last year. You can make case he was probably the best safety last year. Casey Jackson, didn't they acquire Casey Jackson as well?
Casey Jackson, yeah, but he was hurt a lot last year. He didn't play much last year. Yeah,
I think he played 2 or 3 games. So, and now they got Asante Samuel Jr. over there as well.
He played last year. He played well last year.
Yeah. So I'm saying it's a lot of names, right? It's a lot of key talent and all this good stuff. But can you get the stop when you need it? Can you score when we need it? Can you get the first down when we need it? And then you got Big Brother in that same division with the Chiefs. So I just think until I see it, right? Until I see them surpass Kansas City and knock them off, I have to keep rolling with KC. I do think the Chargers make the playoffs again. I do think they find a way to be even better this season, but I still think it's going to be at least a 2-game separation between them and the Chiefs.
Okay, let's get to the Chiefs. Because once again, I know you're real big on I believe in it when I see it. When it comes.
I know the direction you about to go with the Chiefs, and I just got one simple answer for everything you're about to say that concerns the Chiefs and why you don't think they're going to be successful.
I'm going to tell you right now, you don't even know what the first thing I'm about to bring up is. My first concern with the Chiefs is Chris Jones not being paid.
Oh, okay.
That's number one. Exactly. Yeah, you didn't even think about that. So Chris Jones is.
It was on my radar, but it wasn't the first thing I thought you was going to bring up.
Chris Jones not being happy is not good for anybody in Kansas City. I would say at this point, him being unhappy is more of an issue than if Kelsey or Mahomes was unhappy. Chris Jones is the defense in Kansas City. Ain't no question. Ain't nobody else that I'm looking at and being like, yeah, they can. No, it's Chris Jones. I like Nick Bolton. I like Snead. Like, they got some good players, they got some good players who in another year they're gonna look. Hopefully, they look better. But Chris Jones is the thing that makes that defense go. And if he's not there, then I have no hope in that defense at all. I don't think he's been holding out. I don't think he's been holding out. If so, it's been I'm showing up, but I'm not doing nothing type of holdout.
Right.
I don't think he's
holdout ever.
Yeah, I don't think he's taking the Nick Bosa route. Nick Bosa just like, nah, bro. I'll show up when y'all pay me. I don't think he's taking that route. So we'll see what. But that's where I start with things with Kansas City. Cool. Second, we're gonna go back to the same concerns that were talked about last year. Can this be a high-powered passing offense with Travis Kelce and a bunch of scrubs? Or not scrubs, but a bunch of average players, or unproven players. Because Scott Moore, I think, definitely has Scott Moore and Kadarius Toney have the potential to be really good wide receivers. We just haven't seen it. And then what is it? It's Scott Moore, Kadarius Toney. There's one more guy. MVS. Yep. Valdez-Scantling. And then 3 tight ends that, in addition to Travis Kelce, who's going to get used at random times this season. So will this be another year of, look, man, we told you, we don't need Tyreek Hill. We don't need anybody else. We're going to go out here and we're going to make y'all look silly with our passing game, which 100% could be the case. Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the game. Patrick Mahomes, the best wide receiver in the game. Andy Reid, probably the best offensive mind in the game. That 100% can be the case. I think that I'm not going to say which way, but I can see it going. I can see it being a lower pace offense than what it's been. I can see it not being as high powered as it looked last year when it comes to the passing game. I'm definitely worried about their run game. I don't ever believe in that. So if their running game isn't going as high powered and as effective as they want it to be, can they turn to Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and get an effective run game going? I'm not confident in that, maybe, but once again, it's something. So I think that, especially with how tough the AFC is going to be this year, that they're going to run into games where people can match them on offense and play better than them on defense. And I think I don't think it's going to be many games that's like that, but they're going to run it to them. And I think that brings them down to a 13-4, 12-5 season.
So you sound like I sounded last year with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
All those.
Well, I was saying, don't worry about it. I was on the side of don't worry about it. They got it. Don't even worry about it.
And you didn't bring up to me what is the biggest issue outside of Chris Jones, and that was the departure of Orlando Brown, who played fantastic for the Chiefs last year.
Because they replaced him with
Donovan Smith.
That's what they replaced him with? Donovan Smith? Okay.
Yep. But Patrick Mahomes, after losing Tyreek Hill the year before, completely shut me up to the point where I cannot question anything concerning Kansas City offense, at least.
Oh, run game has always been a question mark. I don't care who.
Well, and see, that it's one of those teams to me that's going to run the ball good enough by default. I just think Clyde Edwards-Helaire was just not fit for that system. Therefore, he didn't produce. The moment you insert Isaiah Pacheco, the numbers double. Isaiah Pacheco had 170 carries for 830 yards with 5 touchdowns. Once again, like we spoke off air, my only concern about him is not getting any targets out of the backfield whatsoever.
Yeah. Which will solve that problem.
There you go. And then we spoke about the slower pace. It seemed like Patrick Mahomes last year was even more calmer and observant in the pocket that he was over the previous years of his career. So we're talking about a guy that threw for 50 touchdowns years ago, and I see what he done last year without Tyreek Hill, and I'm like, which one was the better year? I probably have to roll with this Super Bowl year that he just had last season, where it was simple.
Jawan Taylor. I knew they had got a better guy than Donovan Smith. Jawan Taylor is the guy that they signed to replace Orlando Brown.
I think he's going to be on the right. I think he's going to be playing right tackle, and Donovan Smith's going to be playing left tackle.
Donovan Smith played left tackle last year, right? That was Orlando Brown's thing. He was mad about playing right tackle.
Right tackle. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So now that he doesn't have to look for Tyreek Hill, right? We saw a whole nother break of this KC's offense, and it was the running game that we didn't know exists. You remove that star player Tyreek Hill, and now it allows different lanes for us to run the ball. It doesn't even make sense getting into play calling with Andy Reid. He knows what he's doing. It's always going to be good. So I have no concerns about this Kansas City offense. The only concern is, can they continue to protect Patrick Mahomes? And if that's the case, he is clear-cut number one, the best quarterback in all of football, and there's no one close. And I have to continue to ride with him.
So my first argument about that is going to be Juju Smith as a wide receiver is better than any wide receiver they had this year. Him being they number one quote unquote wide receiver last year, which he put up a good year, but he's better than whatever they got in their room for this year. That's Once again, we're talking about even hell, Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith is a huge drop off. But
I was just about to say that. Like,
but even Juju Smith, to the guys that once again we're talking about somebody Juju Smith who at least is consistent. We know what he gonna go out there and give you. We ain't got nothing but question marks when it comes to Sky Moore, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, and whoever the hell is behind them.
I don't let me say this. I don't have question marks about him. I just think with Skylar Moore, it was more of he didn't get a chance to play. He didn't have a role, right? Everything everything I read about him in college, I didn't see him as much in college as everybody else, but everybody loved the kid. I know there was a chance that the Saints were supposed to take him. But for whatever reason, he didn't get a lot of playing time last season. I mean, they still had a crowded receiving room with the departure of Tyreek Hill. So I'm sure it's going to come down to him just getting more opportunities. Anybody who Andy Reid deems good enough at this point to be a receiver, I'm rolling with it because I'm not looking at the receiver position. I'm looking at Travis Kelce, and I know what I'm getting there. That is my number one receiver. Anytime we see man to man, we know who we're going to, and that's Travis Kelce. So I understand he's a tight end, but I view him more as a receiver. He's a number one option. So I can kind of care less about who they put here and there at the receiver position. They all are comparable receivers. I have my true number one option in Travis Kelce.
Yeah, but just like any other number one option, that's where the attention goes. So what can you other guys do for me? Juju Smith was a safety blanket in those situations. I know if I go towards Juju, he's going to come down with the football. He's going to put me in a good situation to be able to make a play. I can't say that about Scott Moore. Can't say that about MVS. Can't say it about Kadarius Toney because I never know if Kadarius Toney is even going to be on the field. Like, that's a huge difference in that situation because losing Tyreek Hill is, okay, hell, we got Travis Kelce. That's cool. And we're going to go get Juju because that's a great route runner, and I know he's going to be open. He's going to get open when I need him to get open. I don't see any reason for, once again, I hope that Patrick Mahomes feels that confident in his guys. But on the outside looking in, we haven't seen anything from those guys to make us believe that.
Well, I feel like anything that Juju, and no disrespect to Juju, but I just feel like whatever service he was, MVS can be the same.
And we haven't seen it. Even in MVS's years in Green Bay, we've seen a big scale. MVS is the one player on that team that we've got a big sample size of.
Right. And
he's so Juju Smith.
But we're not asking him to go out there and win the game, too. So let's just say, for instance, MVS go out here and get 600 yards receiving. Juju only had. And
I don't even care about the yardage. We're talking about situational football right now. When it's all eyes are on Travis Kelce, who's going to be the guy that I'm going to be able to go to instead of forcing it in between these three guys that's over here with Travis Kelce. Yeah. And will those guys be able to step up in those moments is what my concern would be. Because once again, in a tougher AFC, you're going to see a lot more of those moments this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I got you.
So yeah, that's my thing. Once again, we agree. Kansas City, I got them winning the AFC West. It wouldn't shock me though if the Chargers took that division away from them this year in a close battle. One game, 2 games. But we see that pretty clear. We got two playoff teams coming out of the AFC West, 2 playoff teams coming out of the NFC West. And next week we'll be able to go ahead or probably later this week we'll jump into another episode and tackle the East teams or the North teams. But through 4 divisions, we got 3 playoff teams in each conference so far. 1, 2, yeah. Because we got 2 from the AFC West and only 1 from the AFC South.
Yep.
And then it's the same in the NFC.
Yep.
So when we sit back down later on this week, it'll be after cut. Because cuts got to be made, I think, by tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's coming. That's coming soon. And our teams will be down to 53-man rosters. Wednesday is when the waiver claims will start clearing, and we'll see who got moved to where. But man, we are, I think, 13 days from football. I think we're 13 right now.
team.
From opening day, which is again Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. What in the world happened there? Are you serious?
Yeah.
That was weird. Yeah, the Detroit Lions against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then of course our New Orleans Saints kick off Tennessee Titans at home, in New Orleans. So that's definitely we're definitely looking forward to that. Week one of college football is Saturday, so that's gonna get us prepped. That's gonna get us revved up for NFL next week. But yeah, we'll get back here and we'll talk more about these cuts. We'll see what our 53-man roster looks like. We'll see who's able to stick around on our practice squad, which I'm hoping Lucas Kroll for sure is one of those guys that's able to make it to our practice squad. But outside of that, you got anything else?
That's it, man. We'll see you guys next week.
Sure.
I'm in the league, you boys not in my league. If you listen close, I'm coaching. Take keys to the boy, hella dope without pushing a Blanco. Still stabbing bitches like 94 in the Bronco. If it's about the money, I'm leaving them hoes pronto. If I don't do nothing, I'm about line so.
Every time I do it the coldest.